Welcome back to Spartan Stadium, site of Ohio State's 38-7 win. First Big Ten win, first road win, a primetime win. They've done that, but this is the first one I think that will please everyone who said, hey, can the Buckeyes play someone with a pulse? They did just that. These are snap judgments. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. 38-7. I'm not going to nitpick a single thing about a win as decisive as that against the Spartans. I'm just not.
I think, we're going to start with something we don't normally do. Should give credit to the opponent. Michigan State had a really good game plan early. Aiden Childs was accurate with the ball. Michigan State did a ton of play action and used Ohio State's front four's aggressiveness against them, then got them on their heels a little bit and allowed Michigan State to pick up some chunk plays. But the Buckeye defense, call it bend, don't break, call it whatever you want, they made the plays that they had to make in the first and second quarter when the game was still feeling a little bit precarious. And then the alien took over. And I'm going to tell you what.
I think that might be why I'm in such a good mood for the start of Saturday.
I'll tell you what. So anecdotally, I mean, there are really cool things about our job, right? So pregame, we're here in East Lansing. We're watching recruits. Michigan State had a ton of recruits here today, 50, 60 kids. Walking in, and the number of kids I heard say, where's Jeremiah Smith? Where's number 4? Like, they're on the road. Okay, like that is unusual, and if you don't really truly appreciate the LeBron-ness of what Jeremiah Smith is about, that is a moment to me where I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I've never been on the road and heard kids being like, where's that guy? I've seen them like try to catch a side eye of Marvin Harrison, but like they were excited to be here to see Jeremiah Smith, and what he did in the last minute of the first half ended this game. Yep. Because Michigan State walking up this tunnel that's in front of us here, going into halftime, was wiped out. They were completely finished.
Yeah, I think that's like, shouldn't affect mood or coverage. Like, there's some things about Ohio State that we'll talk about in the week ahead. But what happened tonight, and Ohio State's going to play better teams, right? All these things can be true. The things that we would normally say, caveats, this or that. What Jeremiah Smith did tonight, like, you will almost never see it happen. Marvin Harrison made some pretty ridiculous catches in this very building against Michigan State. And in my mind, I was spending like all of halftime trying to decide which ones were better. And then I was like, well, which one of Jeremiah's 2 catches tonight were better from that drive before halftime? And he settled the debate himself. He thought that the first one was double coverage, going to the ground, jumping up, and rather than just...
He was being face masked that entire play. He could not see the ball.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It's nuts.
So
how many people were here? What was the attendance?
They never said in the press box.
So I don't know, 7. It
was a good crowd.
60-some thousand. I don't know how many this place holds, but what I know is that 50,000 of them that are here rooting for the green and white had their souls sucked out of their body by Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, I think Michigan State's defense too did that as well. They had no, like, what are they supposed to do to stop it? It was double coverage on that situation. Then Will Howard gets knocked out. Devin Brown has to come in cold off the bench, and he throws one. It's like, how are you going to stop this guy? It's not like there was bad coverage. It was just magic that Jeremiah Smith made. And so I don't feel like there's things that you have to be overly critical about for Ohio State right now when they did something that defensively as well. If we're going to move away from Jeremiah Smith and what was special, the bend but don't break thing that you talked about, they did bend early and in a way that felt similar to some of the stuff that happened a week ago. But then they broke Michigan State. Jordan Hancock not giving up on a play, forcing a fumble. That's the sort of takeaway and emphasis on forcing the issue and forcing takeaways that Jim Knowles had talked about throughout training camp. You get what you emphasize. Then it comes back again. Lathan Ransom getting in there. It looked like maybe Taiwan Malone they showed the replay about 50 times inside the stadium and thought maybe that was a face mask.
Certainly looked like it to me.
It looked like it to me, and then they showed another view where it's like, okay, well, maybe it was in the front of the shoulder pad, legal. Play it. They looked at it. It was upheld.
Well, you can't review a penalty. So.
Well, yeah, okay, you're right. Jack Sawyer, anyway, they left it as it was on the field. Jack Sawyer recovers it, but I think it would have been rightfully upheld if they had been able to review it, is the point there. But they get the 2 takeaways that they need. They also had a massive, massive 4th down stop from Cody Simon that my jaw dropped for that as well. There were feats of athleticism from Ohio State that were not just Jeremiah Smith led.
And honestly, my biggest takeaway from this game is that, barring dumb penalties like whatever the penalty was on Will Kazmarek in the first drive of the game for Ohio State, I was right here, I had no idea what happened. I didn't see anything that was
It was too good of a block.
worthy of a penalty. But regardless, other than Ohio State getting caught with penalties or just flat out shooting itself in the foot like Will Howard's interception that he shouldn't have thrown, I don't know how you stop this offense. And they can – I almost feel like they should have to start at 1st and 15 every drive because there's not really anything you can do to stop them. Will Howard – I mean, we saw the beautiful like synchronization of Ryan Day and Chip Kelly on the 4th down plays. 4th and 5 from the 35. They're sort of in no man's land. We were talking on Slack, or from the 33. I thought they should have tried the field goal because Jaden Felding looked like he had a pretty good vibe about him tonight. His kickoffs were great. The extra points had a lot of, you could hear them, like he was hitting the ball really well.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see if you can get your kicker to hit a 50-yarder because maybe it might be important at some juncture in the season. But why do that when you can just run a crossing pattern to Emeka Egbuka for 33 yards and nobody touches him? So Will Howard got beat up a little bit, bounced back, tough performance. Like, the run game was tough yards, not, Travion Henderson still averaged 10 yards a carry. But, maybe you just got to keep going to it a little bit more. But when you have Emeka Egbukas and Jeremiah Smiths and Carnell Tates, like, it just looks so easy. Honestly, it's not going to be a nitpick, but like, I thought Emeka Egbuka was in his head a little bit in the first half. I think there were a couple times when he sort of alligator armed the ball because he got hit early, and it was in his head. But he bounced back in the second half. This is just a really veteran team, and they're not going to let a drive, a quarter, put them behind the 8 ball in a way that they can't recover.
Yeah, and I don't think that should be underestimated. Even if people still want to say, well, it's just Michigan State.
It's a good team.
They lost to Boston College. They have good athletes. They were at home. They were energized, both the team and with the recruits, the coaching staff. You could tell before the game. They thought they had a good plan, and I would say that they did. Like, they were able to move the football and have success. They weren't able to punch it into the end zone except for off of the Will Howard interception in the short field, sudden change situation. They moved it up and down the field, and they had some, pressure packages that had Ohio State flat-footed a little bit in the passing game. I think Will Howard still started 12 of 13, and the incompletion was a drop before the interception. But they had things that were like Ohio State looked like they maybe weren't prepared for, and they were going to have to adjust to. Like, I think to me, this doesn't feel like beating overrated Michigan State teams like the Mel Tucker ones and getting up 49-0. Like, I thought those teams were paper tigers, and none of that was legit. And so maybe I'm overselling, but I thought this Michigan State team came ready to play. They landed some punches on Ohio State, and Ohio State, whether that's the veteran guys that have been in this program, whether that's the veteran quarterback who's new, who made a mistake and put his hand up and also had to come back from getting the wind knocked out before halftime, they responded to all that. And then when Ohio State punches somebody back, you're not getting up.
Well, this game, I don't even know if did Michigan State try in the third quarter, or were they just swarmed? Because it seemed like a totally different game. And again, I'm going to attribute that to Jeremiah Smith sucking their souls out of their bodies. But they were so deflated. And then the Ohio State defense came out, and you get a sack from JT Tuimoloau. You get a big stop in the backfield from Ty Hamilton, and all of a sudden the defense starts to feel themselves a little bit. The difference, the energy that you see when Mitchell Melton and Caden Curry and Caden McDonald are on the field, like, I really think that we're going to start to see more and more of those guys because they just bring a different level to their game. But overall, it's a 38-7 win where there were moments. There's a moment in that second quarter where it's 17-7 Ohio State, and Michigan State, with 4 minutes to go, has the ball at the 10-yard line, and they get the ball at the half. And Lathan Ransom causes the fumble, and then the game's over. And, again, the championship teams find a way to deliver a knockout punch. And the Buckeyes did it. It maybe didn't feel quite as good at home if you were watching it. But again, for all of the first of this season, it's a pretty satisfying 31-point win. And, great teams covered.
Yeah. And Ohio State, they checked all those boxes. We haven't even scratched the surface on, the feats of athleticism that I'm, just lucky that I think I was here to watch. Because if it didn't come through all the stuff on television, and if there are some schematic things that can clean up, I certainly understand that. And again, we will talk about that next week. But Caleb Downs, when he triggers on a play, it is like he's been fired out of a cannon. Like, he did that 3 times at least tonight, where I was like, oh, that's the Caleb Downs. Like, if we had not seen that yet through the first 3 games, we certainly did tonight against Michigan State. Lathan Ransom with the punch out there. He's done that a couple times already this season. You know, Emeka running away from people. Travion Henderson sacrificing his body with blitz pickups that launched the passing attack. I mean, you can almost go top to bottom. Everyone who stepped on the field tonight. G. Scott with the early touchdown. Ryan Day going for it on 4th downs. Like, I think that this was it may sound too obvious. It almost sounds condescending. This is a really encouraging step for Ohio State in terms of national title contender and solidifying that. And if there are still people that want to be skeptical of that, and I'm not saying that anyone watching this is in that boat at all, but the conversation about Ohio State has been, well, I don't know, Texas is the #1 team in the country, or Georgia and Alabama, it's the SEC. I don't think they're paying attention to what Ohio State's doing.
I think that's probably a good thing, honestly, for Ohio State. Like, all of the conversation nationally right now is going to be about Alabama and Georgia and the way that game went. Texas struggled a little bit in the first half, 3 quarters with Mississippi State. So by the transitive property, Toledo's better than Texas. You can never...
The real UT.
Yeah, the transitive property never fails. Yeah, I mean, let people not pay attention. The Buckeyes just have to keep improving and getting better every week. I thought that there will be plenty of things to talk about and dissect this week. Right side of the offensive line seemed to me to have some struggles in the run game, and a couple times I think you could see Josh Fryer get turned around. There's things we can talk about all week, but first road game, first Big Ten game at night, good crowd, 31-point win, and maybe you get it on the back of your alien, but who cares? Like, Ohio State has the alien and other teams don't. So
I think that's the point. Like, they have more than one alien.
Yeah.
I don't know what planet Jeremiah Smith is from, but like, you looked at the stuff, to me, the stuff that they did from 20 different players. Yeah. There aren't rosters that are built like this one, in my opinion. And I know that Alabama has really good players. I know that Georgia is pretty loaded on defense again. Texas, when they're fully healthy, that's going to be interesting with Quinn Ewers back. But like, you can't spend all offseason saying Ohio State assembled an all-star team and then not appreciate the all-stars. Like, they're monsters.
I think when you look at Travion Henderson tonight, prime example, again, 10 yards of carry, I think he only had 7 carries, but like 6 of them, he was jumping over people. And again, you mentioned like the pass pickups, the pass pro, like they're doing, you got so many very unselfish players on this team that it's pretty remarkable to watch. I mean, Quinshon Judkins, after the huge week a week ago, has 54 yards on 11 carries or something tonight, and you don't really miss a beat. And it's only going to get better as they start to figure out exactly how all these pieces work. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to needing something to happen, and you have Jeremiah Smith, that is the difference maker, and there's nothing like it in the Big Ten. We'll have some conversations as we move along this season about Ryan Williams at Alabama and other players, but that are also having really good freshman seasons and eye-opening statistics. But until you see Jeremiah Smith in person, you just really don't get it. And that dude killed Michigan State tonight, and the Buckeyes then were just picking up the carcass in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Well, remember, the Buckeyes pulled their starters at the first play of the 4th quarter tonight. So this could have been a 51-7 type game, a 52-7 type game. Like, they could have named their score at that point. There's a lawnmower back here. I don't know if you can hear it, but we're going to get out of here. This is Snap Judgments from East Lansing. We'll see you back in Ohio. Thanks for watching, everyone. He's Austin Ward. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. Good night.